What is good and what is up, y'all? It's your boy here, Jay, back and better than ever with another episode of Chargers Banter. The Chargers find themselves stumbling once again, going ahead and losing to the Indianapolis Colts last Sunday. Just a complete all-around domination at SoFi Stadium. Now looking to move forward, even though with the injuries that we do have. Now tonight, facing the Vikings on Thursday Night Football on Amazon, and a debut of our Navy uniforms back to the San Diego Superchargers. So we're going to dive into what happened last week, as well as a preview of what's going to happen tonight, all right here on Chargers Banter. What is up, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Chargers Banter. The Chargers find themselves stumbling once again, losing to the Indianapolis Colts last Sunday, 38-24 in SoFi Stadium. Just complete all-around domination from the Indianapolis Colts, and I know that we have a depleted roster. I know that our offensive line is depleted, but it was just not good for the Chargers. I mean, all around, we just didn't look like someone that was interested in having a football game on Sunday, and we need to change that. We need to change the mojo going forward, because we do have a really good primetime matchup coming up tonight, as the Chargers are going to be facing off against the Vikings coming into SoFi Stadium. It's a much needed win type of game. I know that we've been up and down, 1-3 in the last 4 games, but we really need to turn around the mojo, because, like I said, last week was not promising whatsoever, understandably so. We have a lot of injuries, but there's no excuses that could be made, because this is what happens with the Chargers throughout the years, and also just what happens in the NFL, right? You know that you can't make it to the end of the season without injuries. If you do, that's just a blessing from the football gods, but it never seems to be in the Chargers' favor ever. And we have to come to a realization that this is going to happen, that you're going to have injuries from, not only just players, but players that you need. So at the end of the day, managing to flip the page, next man up mentality, and just continue to move forward, continue to push and be the team that you can be with the pieces that you do have. And I know that you're going to be facing some great teams going forward, but you got to just continue to compete and lean on the guys that you have, like I said, and your superstar in Justin Herbert, and continue to try and just keep him healthy. Keep him healthy as much as possible, even though he's one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the entire NFL. We just need to keep him healthy. But let's get into what had happened last week, a complete all-around domination from the Colts. And then let's get into the preview of what is going to happen tonight against the Vikings. Hopefully a complete turnaround from what happened this past Sunday. But let's start with this past Sunday, as the Colts visited the Chargers in SoFi Stadium and went into LA and absolutely dominated the Chargers. The Colts head into SoFi Stadium last Sunday and stomp out the Chargers in all facets of the game, 38-24. Chargers now 1-3 in their last 4 games after starting 3-0. Injuries riddled this team, but truthfully, we just got outplayed in every facet of the game. Colts scored at will, dropping almost 40 points on one of the top pass defenses, but one of the worst run defenses, as Jonathan Taylor had his way with a 3-touchdown performance, 16 carries, 94 yards rushing, and 38 yards receiving, and 3 touchdown rushing, while Daniel Jones also had a day, continuing his fantastic season and maybe even an MVP season, with a great game going 23 of 34, 288, 2 touchdowns, and Alec Pierce having 5 receptions, 98 yards. Tyler Warren had 4 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown, and Michael Pittman Jr., 7 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. Just complete day all around for the Colts on this Chargers defense. And the defense also showed out, picking off Justin Herbert twice in pivotal moments. Just really showed out their dominance, and they are legit. 6-1 now the Colts are, and coming out of this South that really isn't a competitive division. Doesn't matter, because they really haven't faced any of those teams in the division. A lot of people will say early on they weren't facing a lot of great teams, but anybody in the NFL putting up the numbers that they are against whoever they're putting those numbers up against is a good team. I understand that they probably haven't played the upper echelon of the competition that you want to play, but they really just put us in the dirt. And we can't come into games thinking, oh, well, they haven't played this, they haven't played that. Our defense is. This is the NFL. Every week, and we should know this as the Chargers, every week it comes down to a one possession game. And if it's not, then it's complete all around domination, and it's not one or the other. So, there are late surges and making scores, tighter than what they seem, but it's really one or the other when it comes to winning and losing ball games. It's a one possession game, or it's complete domination, and then, like I said, late surges in garbage time. But it was complete domination. The Colts are a great team. A lot of people online talking hoopla about whether the Colts are legit or not. If you're 6-1, especially in this, season of the NFL, a lot of teams kind of haven't found their footing, and nobody really seems to be legit. But the Colts are legit. All facets, they beat us. Special teams, offense, and defense. They picked Justin Herbert off twice. They had, a crap ton of yards, and didn't really need the time of possession because they just scored at will. It felt like they scored on every single drive that they had the football. And then on special teams, they just went ahead and had great returns, almost, a kick return and a punt return. So they were all around beating us, and it just wasn't fun to watch, especially the fact that I was at the game, going to the game with my family. My stepmom is a Colts fan, unfortunately, being from Indianapolis, so I respect that. So I understand, why she's a Colts fan being from Indianapolis. But, we got our butts whipped. We got belt to cheeks, and there's not much more that I can say to that. I mean, we just got straight belt to cheeks in all facets of the game. The Colts are legit, and we just have to continue to watch out for this team going forward. We're we're going to see them in the postseason, and it's just a matter of how they are going to be playing with Daniel Jones at the helm. Will Daniel Jones continue this performance that he's, had with the Indianapolis Colts and a complete team? But now on to the Chargers, who had a complete opposite of days than the Colts, but still some upside. I guess. Not really sure. But Herbert had a very up and down day, going 37 of 55, 420, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He had to throw the ball as much as he did to even have a chance against this Colts team who were, like I said, were scoring at will, scoring at every drive that I felt like they had the ball. Because our run game was non-existent, with our line completely depleted and our running backs hurt, and as well as our defense just not, like I said, holding up to be able to give our offense a chance. Herbert led the rushing as well, having 6 carries for 31 yards, as Vidal had 20 yards on 9 carries, just not very good. But Oronde Gadsden II had a career day, as he had 7 receptions for 164 yards for the rookie tight end, and a touchdown with a long of a 53-yard reception. Just showed his hands and versatility. And I said going forward he'd be the tight end one in the passing game, and it showed in this game, leading all receivers. And I also said going into the draft that I hope that he had hands. And this game showed me that, he's got it. He's got it. And that's what I've been kind of wanting in a tight end, someone that can just catch the ball. I don't need someone that, is going to break tackles and be Travis Kelce and all this type of stuff. But Oronde Gadsden is 6'7" and has the versatility to be whoever he wants. Because, man, he looks like a specimen, to be quite frank. He looks like a Kellen Winslow, a little bit skinnier. But, yeah, he's like that. Keenan Allen also didn't have a bad day, casually going 11 receptions for 119 yards and a touchdown. Again, he still got it. And Ladd, 9 receptions, 67 yards. And QJ had another TD for, the season in this game. So that's great to see QJ get in the end zone. But guys, it was all for naught. Essentially, is what I'm saying. All those statistics that we had. I know Justin threw the ball 55 times because our run game is non-existent and our defense couldn't stop anybody. That was the only option that we had. But like I said, it was all for naught, as the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Not having a single turnover and just missed assignments, and Colts making plays. Felt as if the Colts were scoring on every drive, and basically did. The team stats were pretty even, as well as favored the Chargers in time of possession, but the Colts didn't need the time of possession, as they would strike early, fast, and often. Chargers just didn't have it on Sunday, and it showed even with Khalil back. Not sure if it's because of the injuries, but this team is just absolutely flattened. It's in a rut right now, just hoping that we get some guys back and changes the mojo because we are just not it right now. Just not it. So hoping, like I said, once we get a couple of these pieces back, that it changes the mojo in the locker room. Because I feel a weird sense of, guys are down because of the fact that there's injuries, and they're not playing as hard because there's their injuries, and and it got to be the next man up mentality. I understand that we don't have the best offensive line. I understand that a lot of guys are missing, and key guys at that, but it's football. It's football. It's a physical sport. People are going to get hurt. It's an expectation. It's a literal inevitability that it's going to happen. So just it's tough, right? To change the mindset like that. But if you want to go ahead and make the playoffs, if you want to go ahead and have the season that you do with the team that you do, you gotta push forward and try everything that you can, because also too, you're not promised this game every season. It's not baseball. It's not even basketball. Basketball is physical, but guys tend to come back from a lot of those torn ACLs pretty fast because I don't know. It's a different sport, right? It's not as physical, and not as taxing on the body. But to my ultimate point, just got to push forward. Just got to manage to block out all the noise, understanding that it's a team sport. Everybody's on the same team. Everybody's feeling the same things. And I hope that, Jim can rally the guys. I know that he can rally the guys and just manage to win these games. Win as many games as you can with the guys that are gone. And then when these guys come back, that's when you go on a run and start winning as many games as you can again. So hoping that's the case when we get these guys back. But let's go ahead and dive into the injury report here for the Chargers, because it's rather lengthy, not 49ers lengthy, but it's still lengthy. We got Joe Alt, who has been practicing this week, guys. This is a very positive sign. Like I said, if hopefully we get some of these guys back, it'll change the mojo. This is a big piece to that mojo switch. Joe Alt, hoping and praying that he can play tonight. I'm making this the night before, so hoping and praying that when I wake up in the morning that this will be not questionable anymore and that he will be playing and active. But I obviously will be posting this in the morning, so who knows as of right now. But that would be a big, big, big help, not just for Justin Herbert, but for the whole entire team, a big mojo switch. Another piece that is also out right now is Jamari Caldwell. He's also questionable. Austin Deculus is questionable, someone who got some time substituted in, but then got hurt. So someone that we felt like, obviously, not one of the better offensive linemen, but, was a replacement and hoping that we could get a little bit more production because of the fact that we weren't getting production from our offensive line, and then he gets hurt. So that's just tough to see. Linebacker Troy Dye, also questionable as well with a thumb injury. I think that he will play. I've seen him play with a literal cast in a literal club. Hassan Haskins is out this week with a hamstring. Didn't practice all week long. We got Kyle Kernard back from a knee injury. Elijah Molden is also questionable for this week with a thumb. Trey Pipkins, questionable as well with a knee. And last but not least, Jamari Sawyer, questionable with a knee. So hoping and praying that we get at least 3 or 4 guys from this list playing this week. That would be awesome and a big help. And I'm hoping a majority of those guys are offensive linemen. But neither here nor there. I hope all of these guys come back sooner rather than later because we need them. We need them badly. I know that Ortiz is trying to cook something up to be able to get some linemen in, but it's hard to trade for linemen mid-season, guys. A lot of people are online saying, we need to trade, we need to do this, we need to do that. You know how hard it is to trade for an offensive lineman, let alone a backup? Because think about it this way. Every team has limited, offensive linemen. They have limited number of offensive linemen. And number of good offensive linemen. I mean, that's a rare position in this league already when in terms of upper echelon, right? You don't necessarily see a lot of linemen getting paid top dollar. It's because of the fact that they're recyclable. And I don't mean to throw shade at linemen whatsoever, but they get hurt, they're not reliable, they go team to team. That's tendencies of what's happening in this day and age with linemen. And to find a, like I said, someone that's reliable, someone that, you want to put an investment into with a contract, it's hard, guys. And so my point to all of that is there's not a lot. And when you go out and try to trade for linemen, when you try to, trade linemen that you already have or pieces that you can give up, you're either giving up a section of your team to get worse in one section to get better in another, or you're not getting it anything at all. Because of the fact that these teams don't want to give up their linemen. You have so seldom of linemen, and let alone backup linemen. So when those guys get hurt, like I said, when they get hurt, they're recyclable, and the next man steps up. So they need those guys. They need their backups, just in case anything crazy happens, because it is an injury-prone position, and it's a position that's super valuable in this league. So to my point, it's going to be hard to try and trade for a lineman mid-season and in-season. So we're just going to have to roll with what we got for the rest of the season. That's why it was so pivotal to draft and to, pick up guys in the offseason that you can rely on. And it's not to say that, these guys aren't unreliable, in their past. I'm, not trying to say that this is how they were the entire time, or this is, the nature of how they are as a player, injury prone or that. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it is so pivotal and so key to get the pieces of need in the offseason, because like any other sport in the NFL, or like any other sport, the NFL is just as important when it comes to off-season transactions, and getting pieces that you need and filling holes and doing all of those types of things, and not just relying on the draft and like I said, the guys that are on your practice squad or whatever. So this is a very transaction league, and people got to understand that. So I'm hoping and praying that these guys pan out, and that eventually, we turn the corner when it comes to terms of winning some ball games and really, controlling the narrative of these ball games as well. Because I feel like if we don't score early, we're at a loss. And then we're behind the eight ball, and then eventually we're not gonna make a comeback. I haven't seen a comeback this season, and outside of the Broncos game, but that was kind of, I wouldn't say it was a small comeback, but in the sense of we're completely down and out, and we come back out of the waters. I want to see something like that. So hoping that when we get these guys back, that we turn the corner and turn the mojo around on this whole entire roster, and we fight for the division, because we still have those 3 division wins. That's super big time. But moving on from the Colts, guys, turning the page and hoping that that's behind us and that we don't repeat what happened that game. It was just complete domination. But now moving on to tonight's game, because like I said, we got to turn the page quick. We got to move on. And now we got tonight's game against the Vikings. Prime time Thursday night football on Amazon. So let's get into it, guys. Also hoping to turn the page quickly, like I said, because tonight we got the Vikings on Thursday Night Football on Amazon. Carson Wentz will be starting for the Vikings and will be somewhat better for the defense, our defense, but not that much better. We cannot just hope and pray that Carson Wentz is going to have a bad day and throw us a bunch of picks. We need to stop the run, and Jordan Mason is the big thing that we're going to need to stop, right? He's been rushing the ball great lately, because if they run the ball well, Carson Wentz could rip it all over with Justin Jefferson, especially with what happened this past weekend. It'll just open up a lot more through our defense. The Vikings also have a stout defense and will be ready to feast on a weak line that we have. They're no pushover, guys, as they're coming off a loss versus Philly. I understand that Philly, berated them with pass yards, but there's still no pushover. Both Philly wide receivers went off, so this may be a shootout with passing for Herbert because last week the Eagles went off on the Vikings through the air. So you might see Herbert throwing again 50 times, and you might see Wentz even throwing 50 times, depending on if the defense can stop the Vikings. So we might see what had happened 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was when we were in Minnesota and Keenan Allen had all the receptions that he did. This might be another one of those games. I'm hoping that we win that game again. And that's just how it is usually with the Vikings. It's always typically been kind of like a shootout. Um, so back to the point. I hope that we can get these pieces back, turn the mojo around, and get a solid performance out of the guys that we have. I know that guys are still going to be hurt, but Herbert still needs his guys to protect him. And I know that this defensive line, and if even if the secondary for the Vikings isn't great, I know that the defensive line is always good for them. The linebackers are always solid. So maybe the back end was giving up some yards, but if our offensive line is weak, they're going to be feasting. And the Phillies' offensive line is pretty decent when it comes to pass and run blocking. We're in the complete opposite. So we're going to have to figure it out. It's going to be a shootout. I know it is. But we're gonna have to figure it out. In the end, I just want to see this team compete, guys. That's all I want to see. I just want to see this team compete because last week was terrible. I need to see the defense play better. I know the O-line won't get better immediately, but improvements need to be made. We need to win bad to not be 1-4 in the last 5 games. If not, then we're gonna be, it's going to be hard to come back from that deficit now that the Chiefs are rattling off wins. But we will see, guys. I'm going to the game tonight also. I got a career fair before the game with a bunch of different teams from Los Angeles, all of these professional teams and their media personnel and their hired ups coming to talk to all those guys trying to get in that field. But it's going to be at SoFi Stadium, so I'm going to get to watch the game right after that. And I'm hoping and praying I don't see what I saw last Sunday. I'm praying it's the complete opposite, and I get to see some great football. I get to jump for joy and root for the Chargers, and just like I said, hoping that it is a complete different game. But if it isn't, I wouldn't be surprised, guys. I'm not going to sit here and try and be the complete optimistic fan. I'm a realist. Let's be real. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw what we saw last weekend, where it's just complete domination, where you can't stop a nosebleed. Right now, the defense is deflated because of the fact that they're on the field as much as they are. We just need to change the mojo, right? Changing our mentality, I think, will eventually lead into the energy, lead into us making plays, and furthering us, leading it to wins. I know that this Chargers team is capable of it. I know Jim Harbaugh has changed a little bit of the culture of the mentality of this team, and now I hope that it comes into fruition with the wins, right? We see it on the field. We see when it comes to the fight. Maybe it wasn't there last Sunday because it just felt off. Didn't feel like it felt like a trap game almost, but not really a trap game. Just complete utter butt whooping. But he's changed the mojo in the mentality of this team and how to go about their business. And I think that after that embarrassment of what happened last week in those jerseys, it doesn't matter what jersey we have on. I'm tired of, we got this. I don't care what we have. I want to win some ball games. I want to stop having this narrative about Justin Herbert not winning and all this other stuff, that he's not a top 5 quarterback. I don't really care about him being in the conversation, but I'm tired of the hate because he's not that bad, and he's not bad at all. And, by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm tired of all that narrative, and I just hope that I come, go to SoFi, park my car, go to this, little convention and watch this game after and indulge in some great football that I'm witnessing on Thursday Night Football, some primetime football, and really just see a win, man, see a dub. But at the end of the day, it's my Chargers. I'm going to root for them. It's bolt up always, guys. But that is a wrap of this episode of Chargers Banter, guys. Let's get this dub. Bolt up. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and go ahead and tune in next week to another Chargers Banter episode, and as well as my other episodes of Jay's Point After and Thunder Banter. But it's Bolt Up, baby. Hoping and praying for this dub tonight. Wish me luck. Let's go. Bolt Up. We out.